Tam Cam story. Once upon a time, there were two sisters with different fathers. The two sisters are almost the same age. Tam is the first wife's daughter. Bran is the concubine. Tam's mother died when Tam was a child. A few years later, Tam's father also died. Tam lives with his stepmother and she is a very bitter person. Day after day, Tam had to work hard, from herding buffalo, carrying water, cutting potatoes, scooping water hyacinth, and grinding rice at night without finishing any work. Meanwhile, Cam was pampered by her mother, fed white clothes, stayed at home all day, and did not have to do heavy work. One day, the stepmother gave the two sisters a basket and told them to go to the fields to catch shrimp and shrimp. She promised, "Whoever catches the whole basket will be rewarded with a red bib." Going to the fields, Tam got used to finding crabs and catching snails, so in just one session, the basket was filled with both fish and shrimps, and Cam was busy walking from field to field, until the afternoon but still nothing. Seeing Tam catch a basket full, Cam told her, Sister Tam, Sister Tam." Her head was dirty, so she ducked deep, lest she get scolded by her mother. Believing it to be true, Tam went into the pond and waded out to a deep place to bathe. Cam took the opportunity to pour all of Tam's clothes into his basket and then stepped forward. When Tam stepped up, there was only an empty basket, so he sat down and covered his face, crying. At that time, the Buddha was sitting on a lotus flower. He suddenly heard Tam's cry and immediately appeared down and asked, "Why are you crying?" Tam told the story. Told the Buddha said, "Please keep quiet. Try looking in the basket to see if there's anything else." Tam looked in the basket and said, "There's only one goby left. I brought that goby back and dropped it into the well to raise. Every meal, worth eating 3 bowls, one eat 2 and drop 1 to give to my dad. Every time you feed me, remember to call me like this. Bong bang bang bang, come and eat my family's gold rice and silver rice. Don't eat someone else's rice and flour porridge. If you don't call it like that, it won't come up, remember that." Having finished speaking, the Buddha disappeared. Tam followed the Buddha's instructions and dropped the gong into the well. From that day on, at every meal, Tam saved rice, hid it and gave it to her parents. Every time he heard Tam calling, the goby would rise to the surface of the water to grab the grains of rice Tam threw down. People and fish became more and more familiar with each other, and the goby grew bigger and bigger. Seeing that Tam often brought rice to the well after every meal, the scabies woman became suspicious, so she told Cam to wait. Cam hid in the bushes by the well and heard Tam call out to her uncle, so she memorized it and told her mother. That night, the stepmother told Tam to get up early tomorrow morning to herd the buffalo, and said, "My child, the village has already started banning copper. Tomorrow, when you go to herd the buffalo, you must herd the fields far away. Don't herd your own fields, the village will take the buffalo." Tam obeyed. The next morning he took the buffalo far away to eat. At home, Cam and her mother brought the bowl of rice to the well and ordered their parents to eat just like Tam ordered. Hearing the call, the goby rose to the surface. Cam's mother was ready, caught the goby and brought it home to slaughter. In the afternoon, Tam took the buffalo home. After eating, Tam brought the bowl of rice to the well. Tam called but did not see the goby rise as usual. Tam called and called and called, and finally only saw blood clots floating on the surface of the water. Knowing that something bad was happening to her husband, Tam burst into tears. The Buddha appeared again and asked, "Why are you crying?" When I told the story to the Buddha said, "People have eaten my gobi." "Well, please shut up." Then he went back to pick up its bones, found 4 jars and put them in them, burying them under the 4 legs of the child's bed. Tam returned and followed the Buddha's instructions to look for the gobi bones, but kept looking in the corners of the garden and couldn't find them anywhere. A chicken saw that and said to Tam, "I'm clucking. Give me a handful of rice, I'll pick out the bones for you." Pick up a handful of rice and throw it to the chicken. The chicken ran into the kitchen to dig for a while and immediately found bones. Tam then picked it up, put it in a jar and buried it at the foot of the bed as the Buddha had told him to do. Shortly after, the king held a festival for several days and nights. Young and old, girls and boys from all the villages were excited to see it. On the roads, clothes were flowing in bundles and bundles of clothes into the capital like flowing water. Cam and her mother also bought beautiful clothes to go to the festival. Seeing that Tam also wanted to go, the stepmother sighed. Then she took a measure of rice and mixed it with a measure of rice and told Tam, "Finish picking up this rice for me. Then go wherever you want. Don't leave unfinished." I didn't have anything to eat when I got home. Having said that, mother and son dressed up and set off. Tam sat and picked it up for a while, feeling overwhelmed, thinking he would never finish picking it up, so he sat and cried alone. At that moment, the Buddha appeared and asked, "Why are you crying?" Tam pointed to the basket and said, "Your aunt forced you to pick rice into rice, rice into rice. Then you can go to see the festival. When you finish picking up, the festival will be over. Once it's gone, there's nothing left to see." The Buddha said, "Don't cry anymore. You bring the basket and put it in the middle of the yard so I can send a sparrow down to pick it up for you. But if the sparrow eats it, you will still be beaten when you return. Just tell them like this, clearly, 'Sparrow, come down and pick it up for me. If you eat any grain, I'll kill you. They won't eat yours.'" Suddenly, in the air, a flock of sparrows landed in the yard and picked up the grain in one direction and the rice in another. They were busy chirping and in just a moment they finished it. Not a single thing was disturbed. But when the sparrow flew away, Tam sobbed again. The Buddha said again, "Why are you crying? You are so ragged, people won't let you see the festival. Dig up the goblet jars that were buried the other day and there will be enough things for you to attend the festival." Tam obeyed and dug up the jars. Digging into the first jar, I took out a t-shirt, a silk shirt, a cashew silk bib and a scarf. Digging into the second jar, a pair of embroidered shoes came out. Digging the third jar, I found a tiny horse, but as soon as I put the horse on the ground, it suddenly neighed and turned into a real horse. Digging down to the last jar, he pulled out a lovely set of saddles and harnesses. Tam was so happy that he quickly showered, then put on his saddle, then got on his horse and left. The horse galloped in no time and arrived at the capital. But when he passed a ford, Tam dropped a shoe into the water and couldn't pick it up. When the horse stopped at the gathering, Tam used a towel to wrap the remaining shoe and then squeezed into the sea of people. At that time, the caravan had just arrived at the waiting area. The two elephants leading the group there suddenly stuck their tusks into the ground and roared, refusing to leave. The king sent soldiers into the water to try to find it. They immediately picked up an embroidered shoe that Tam had dropped there. The king looked at the shoe without getting bored. My stomach told me, "Wow, what a beautiful shoe. The person wearing this shoe must be a very beautiful person." Immediately the king ordered all the women and girls to watch the try-on event. Whoever could wear the shoes, the king will take her as his wife. The party was even more bustling because the ladies and girls crowded together to try on shoes. One by one, she pulled each girl into the building in the middle of the large lawn to pray for good luck. But there wasn't a single leg that fit. Cam's mother and daughter are also among them. When Cam and his stepmother walked out of the building, they met Tam. Cam told her mother, "Mom, someone like Tam also tries on shoes." The stepmother pouted, "You're so stupid, I won't even eat anyone else until the bell rings." It was thrown outside the bamboo bank. But when Tam put his foot in the shoe, it fit like a print. She opened the towel and took the second one in. The two shoes are exactly the same. The soldiers cheered happily. Immediately the king sent a group of maids to take her to the palace. Tam stepped onto the palanquin before the surprised and hostile eyes of Cam and her mother. Toy lived happily in the palace. Tam still hasn't forgotten the anniversary of his father's death. She asked the king for permission to return home to prepare an offering for her aunt. Cam and her mother saw that Tam was happy and felt jealous. "Now that I see Tam coming back, my jealousy flares up again." Thinking of a plan, the stepmother told Tam, "Before, you were used to climbing areca trees, you should climb up and tear down a chamber of areca palms to worship your father." Tam obeyed and climbed the areca tree, and when he got close to the chamber, he was down here. The stepmother took a knife to chop the stump. Seeing the tree shaking, Tam asked, "What are you doing under the root?" The areca tree is full of ants, so she chased the ants away to prevent them from burning the children. But before Tam could tear off the areca tree, the tree fell. Tam fell upside down into the pond and died. The stepmother quickly took off Tam's clothes for her son to wear in the palace and lied to the king that Tam had unfortunately fallen into the pond and drowned, so now he had brought the younger brother in to take his place. The king heard that he was not happy, but still did not say anything. Again, Tam died and turned into a golden bird. The bird flew all the way back to the capital to the garden. Seeing Cam washing the king's clothes at the well, Vang stopped on a tree branch and told him, "Dry my husband's clothes. Hang them on the pole. Don't dry them on the fence. It will tear my husband's clothes." Then the bird, Vang, flew straight into the palace. Then perched at the window, singing very merrily. Wherever the king goes, birds fly there. The king was missing Tam inconsolably. Seeing the bird attached to him, the king said, "The golden image of your brother, is it your wife, crawling into his sleeve?" The golden bird flew back, landed on the king's hand and then snuggled into his sleeve. The king loved his gold and forgot to eat and sleep. The king ordered a golden cage to be made for the bird to live in. From then on, day and night the king was only engrossed in birds, not thinking about Cam. Cam quickly came home to tell his mother. His mother told him to catch the birds to eat and then find something to lie to the king about. Returning to the king's palace, while the king was away, Cam caught the bird, cooked it and threw the feathers in the garden. Seeing that Vang was missing, the king asked. Cam replied, "I'm pregnant and crave bird meat, so I stole the magic spell. Your Majesty has already killed the meat and eaten it." The king did not say anything. Oriole feathers buried in the garden turned into 2 peach trees. When the king went out to play in the royal garden, their branches and leaves swooped down to form a shadow, like 2 parasols. The king saw that the tree was beautiful and shady, so he ordered his soldiers to hang around 2 trees and lie down to enjoy the cool air. When the king left, the tree branches stretched straight again. From then on, there was not a day when the king did not lie down and cool off under 2 peach trees. Cam knew about it and went home to tell his mother. His mother told him to send a worker to cut down a tree to make a loom and then find something to lie to the king about. Returning to the palace, on a stormy day, Cam ordered a worker to cut down a peach tree to use wood to make a loom. Seeing the tree being cut down, the king asked. Cam replied, "The tree fell because of the storm. I ordered the choppers to make a loom to weave clothes for your Majesty." But when the loom was finished, Cam sat weaving and always heard the sound of the loom cursing her, creaking, taking her husband's painting. She gouged out her eyes. Seeing this, Cam was scared and rushed home to tell her mother. His mother told him to burn the loom and then dump the ashes far away for peace of mind. Returning to the palace, Cam did as his mother said. He took the burned ashes and dumped them on the sidewalk far away from the palace. From the pile of ash on the side of the road, a tall tree with luxuriant branches and leaves grew. When it comes to fruiting season, the pepper tree can only bear 1 fruit, but the fragrant aroma radiates everywhere. One day, an old woman from a nearby country passed by under the tree, smelled the fragrance, raised her head and saw the fruit on a high branch, so she held it out and muttered, "Oh my dear, it fell into your bag." She let her smell it, but she didn't eat it. As soon as the old woman finished speaking, the fruit fell right into the bag. The old woman took it home and kept it in her room, occasionally coming in to look at it and smell the fragrance. Every day the old woman went to the market alone. From the fruit came out a girl with a body as small as a finger, but in the blink of an eye she transformed into Tam. As soon as Tam stepped out, he took the broom and swept the house clean, then went to wash rice, pick vegetables from the garden and cook soup to help the shopkeeper. Don Tam recorded the small image again and then crawled into the fruit. Every time she came home from the market, the old woman would find the house tidy, delicious rice, and sweet soup ready, and she would be surprised. One day, the mermaid pretended to go to the market, then sneaked back halfway and lurked in the bushes. Backyard. Meanwhile, Tam emerged from the fruit market and went to work as usual. The old woman gingerly looked into the crack in the door. When she saw the beautiful girl, she was so happy that she suddenly rushed through the door and hugged Tam, tearing her skin to shreds. From then on, Tam lived with the woman, and the two loved each other like mother and daughter. Every day, Tam helped the old woman cook rice, cook water, wrap cakes, and prepare betel for her to sell. One day the king went out of the palace and saw a clean water stall on the side of the road, so he stopped by. The old woman brought betel and water to the king. Seeing the beetle with phoenix wings, the king suddenly remembered the beetle his wife had used the same way before, so he asked, "Who is the beetle?" "This beetle is the old lady's daughter," the old woman replied. "Where is your daughter? Call out here so I can see your face." The old woman called Tam out. As soon as Tam appeared, the king immediately recognized his wife from before, somewhat younger and more beautiful than before. The king was so happy, he told the old lady of the country to tell the story, then ordered the servants to bring a palanquin to take Tam back to the palace. When Cam saw that Tam had returned and was loved by the king like before, he couldn't help but be scared. One day, Cam asked her, Sister Tam, how did you become so beautiful?" Tam didn't answer, just asked again, "Do you want to be beautiful so I can help you?" "Thank you immediately." Tam ordered the servant to dig a deep hole and boil a pot of water. Tam told Cam to go down to the hole, and ordered the servants to pour boiling water into the hole. Cam died. Tam ordered the corpse to make fish sauce and put it in a pot to send to the stepmother, saying it was a gift from her daughter. Cam's mother thought it was true, took out the fish sauce to eat, and every meal she sobbed and praised how delicious it was. A crow flew from somewhere and perched on the roof of the house and cried, "Delicious, delicious, delicious." The mother ate her child's flesh and even asked for a piece. Cam's mother was very angry, scolded loudly and carried a pole to chase away the crows. But when the day came that she was almost done eating, she looked into the kitchen and saw her child's skull and fell down dead in horror. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.